Can you see now?
No, sir.
Yes.
Yes,
I'm able
sir.
to
Yes,
see.
sir. Yes, sir. We can see.
We are able to see, Walter.
Oh, okay. Now, how should I go to my Google Meet video? Now, tell me. Now,
No, no, sir. Now you can just click on the you have
So
opened
now,
the no, sir. You go back to your browser, sir, where you have opened Google Meet.
Walter, Dr. Walter,
Yes, sir.
kindly do one thing.
Yes, sir.
Uh, can you present my screen on my behalf, please? In that case, because it is
I
getting
will
late.
present I will present the PPT, sir. You don't need to worry, sir.
Come
No,
on.
Walter. No, Walter. You told me yesterday. No, only the slides will be there. It is there. What's the problem? He is looking. I wanted to know whether
Now it
the
is
page
visible,
will
sir.
appear or
But
not.
Also,
when
good morning.
if someone else presents during that time, his presentation will get cut off.
Okay. Wait. I learned by myself, right? 1 minute. Huh?
No, Varadharajan. Yesterday, Walter himself told us only the slides will appear and only others can see you. Don't worry about that. Proceed.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
You
fine. I'm not very particular about my being seen, professor. I just
No, no,
want
no.
to know.
It must be there in the corner. Let it be. No problem. The eye contact is important, no? When you are giving
Yeah.
the lecture.
You,
So
you, you are
let it be there.
you are right, professor.
Ah, your
Now
slides are
I just resume my screen sharing.
okay.
I present my screen, but what happens? I locate my PowerPoint slides in my desktop as desktop file.
Okay.
yes, sir.
And how to bring that to this particular? But in Zoom, when you just double click, it will automatically come. But here it doesn't come. That's the
No, no. See, when you pressed your PowerPoint, it was there, visible. That is
okay.
enough. You need not go back to your presentation screen.
Yes.
You need not look at your face.
Fine.
That will be there in the corner in the presentation. Just proceed. That's what Walter said yesterday.
Yes.
Isn't that Walter?
That's right. That's right, sir.
Yes. The thing is, you are going back to your presentation screen. Don't do that. Just to go to your PowerPoint presentation, that will be enough.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
You can proceed. I think you minimize that and go there. Not necessary. Just proceed with the presentation. You will be seen in the corner. Not by you, but by others.
Is it okay now, Musa?
Yes, it's quite visible.
Okay.
Visible, sir.
Ma'am, Dr. Savita, ma'am, can you begin?
Yes, sir. Shall we, Walter?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We shall start. Very good morning to all the participants present here. Welcome you all to the second day of the 3-day lecture series organized by the Department of English and Other Foreign Languages, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Ramapuram, Chennai. So today's lecture is Essential Academic Skills for the Teaching Fraternity by Dr. T.S. Varadharajan. I welcome you, sir. At this juncture, I would like to request our head Department of English and Other Foreign Languages, Dr. Rama, to welcome the participants.
Thank you, Walter. Good morning to all the participants present here. On behalf of the Department of English and Foreign Languages, Ramapuram campus, I extend a very warm and hearty welcome to the resource person, Professor T.S. Varadharajan, But yes, Professor Varadharajan is not new to us. We are already in contact with him and we know him, and we have also seen his earlier talks, webinars. So we are extremely happy and privileged to welcome Professor Varadharajan, and we are also happy to welcome Professor Vijay Durai, who was our resource person yesterday. So we are very happy to see the enthusiasm of all the participants. Without taking much of your time, I invite Dr. Savita to welcome the guest and present the introductory remarks about the guest.
Good morning, everyone. SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Ramapuram, extends a very warm welcome to all the participants who have joined us on the second day of our lecture series organized by the Department of English and Other Foreign Languages. Through his lecture series, we would like to engage ourselves with a teaching fraternity constructively in this COVID-19. I heartily welcome today's guest speaker, Dr. T.S. Varadharajan, Assistant Professor of English, PG and Research Department of English, Tyagarajar College, Madurai. We are indeed grateful to you for graciously and readily accepting our invitation. Dr. Varadharajan has nearly 2 decades of teaching experience in colleges. He has specialized in literary criticism and theory. He has more than 20 international research articles, published a book, and reviewer of more than 10 international journals in English language and literature. He has given more than 20 invited lectures in universities and colleges in Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. Today, he is with us to share his ideas on essential academic skills for teaching fraternity. Welcome you, sir. A warm welcome to our head of the department, Dr. Rama, and all my colleagues in the Department of English and Other Foreign Languages. I also welcome our yesterday's speaker, Professor Vijay Durai. I welcome you all once again. Thank you.
Ma'am, can I begin, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good morning to everyone who is available online. Before I begin, I just request everyone to mute your audio so that whatever I speak, you'll be able to listen to. Or when I make a presentation, you'll be able to listen to me very clearly. It is a humble request. Kindly comply with it. I could hear a kind of echo voice. That's why echo noise rather. Somehow I could not see the participants and their details right now. That's why I request everyone to mute your audio. Okay, thank you very much. Exactly the time is now 11:10. I am supposed to finish the whole thing by 12:10. Let me begin by praying the Almighty Lord Dharmasastha, my Ishtadeva, and then to proceed further. Before I begin, I first thank the Vice Chancellor, the Registrar of SRM University, Ramapuram branch of Chennai, and especially the Department of English and Other Foreign Languages, members of staff, Dr. Rama, and my own friend Dr. Savita, and participants and other colleagues who are connected online. Professor Vijay Durai, the speaker of yesterday's webinar, and my own friends and colleagues from Department of English elsewhere. So today we have decided to listen to essential academic skills for teaching fraternity. Before I begin, I make it very clear that I am not going to say anything new. Unlike what we had yesterday, it was mind-blowing and very effective presentation by Dr. Vijay Durai on a topic which we haven't seen much. That's why the one that he did was appreciated by everyone. Here, my attempt is to make you understand what we have already known and how we have to make certain things happen in order to make our job easier, and so on and so forth. So today we are going to have a kind of discussion on, it is only a kind of discussion, the one that we have been following as teachers. I just give you a reminder, request you to go back to your former days and then think about what we have been doing. That's all. So I thank Dr. Savita for having invited me to talk on this particular topic. Perhaps Dr. Vijay Durai sir recommended my name for this particular occasion. And I am Dr. Varadharajan, working in Varadharajan College, Madurai, Teppakulam. And then I just give my plan. This is how I'm going to take this session along with you. Presentation overview. We have this a kind of meaning for the term, of the term education, and then educational values. Why is teaching considered a kind of noble profession? And then what are the advantages of your being a facilitator throughout your life whenever you teach? And then one of the important academic skills that we have been giving importance to, that is time management. Also, stress management, we do give a little bit importance to that. And we also are expected to nurture or impart a kind of social etiquette on the part of the children whom we are connected and constantly keeping in touch with. And then a kind of broader outline, how we call certain components as academic skills. And then you have part of that academic skill, you can call it interpersonal skills. And then the responsibilities and duties of a teacher. And finally, a kind of framework that is suggested by higher education department in order to make our profession useful and purposeful one. So this is how I am going to proceed from starting from education to academic framework. I have a few slides only. I don't have much to show. I request you to understand that the entire presentation that is based on PowerPoint is only for my purpose. In order to make my presentation quite coherent and cohesive, I have requested that I could use slides for my presentation. If you are in need of this particular one, Dr. Walter or Dr. Savita or myself will send you through email once it is completed. And let me begin with my slide 1. We all know who is this gentleman Socrates, a Greek philosopher, a man who wanted his young minds to ask everything, why, what, where, how, kind of a thing. And he is of the view that education should be in the form of kindling a kind of desire. You just kindle a flame, and it should not be like filling a vessel with water or some substance. So as teachers, we are expected to give some tips to the children so that they can stand on their own legs for their future development and greatness. So we begin with this gentleman Socrates. Education is the kindling of a flame, and it can never be filling of a vessel. We are not supposed to say something for a particular period of time, examination point of view, so on and so forth, so that that particular purpose is completely served. Like that, we cannot claim. And we have to incorporate some of the important elements meant for kindling desire, make the children understand, elicit, asking questions. As teachers, we are expected to do this particular job. So we begin with Socrates, the Greek philosopher. When you go to this particular aspect, what an educational mind is capable of doing, I just refer to our own people, a teaching fraternity. We teachers are expected to have the following thing. We are supposed to inculcate moral values so that the students will also inculcate the same thing from us. and we are supposed to create a kind of positive vibration on the part of the children whom we deal with on a daily basis. Sometimes what happens, we spend most of the time with them only 8 hours from morning 8:30 to evening 4:30 kind of a thing. And then once this evolution of an education mind is doing something great, then it has to begin with a kind of lending a helping hand that we call attitude of helping. That is possible only when you are able to help after gaining some information through your education. And we teachers are expected to nurture that particular one. And when you go to the next one, we have whatever we just get, we have to give back to the society. My professor, Dr. K. N. Sivaraman, often says, he loves me much. He is very affectionate towards me. And when he was in America, I had to send an email to him about the progress that we had for our, what do you call, PhD progress. At the time, he said, Varadharajan, your love and affection moves me a lot. What I do is what I get from you, kind of a thing. So in that case, you are expected to do something noble, and you have to give back whatever you have given to the society. And you are supposed to take or give importance to ethical code of conduct. So as teachers, we are expected to give importance to these core values. And then an educated mind is always capable of doing something with regard to astronomy, mathematics, physics, literature, economics, etc. So if at all you are branded as an educated individual, you have these core values in order to understand what is life all about. And then we just begin with an interrogatory sentence. Why teaching? Why not some other profession? Of course, every profession has got its own greatness. You call it plus or minus, advantages or disadvantages, so on and so forth. So why do we choose this particular profession, teaching? Why not something else? Can anyone guess? You please keep guessing. We will get an answer based on what we are going to see. Look at this gentleman, Calvin Coolidge. This man defines the greatness of teaching in the following words. He says, I request the participants to mute the mic so that when we have a kind of discussion towards this, towards the end of this session, we can easily understand and deliberate. Sarita ma'am, can you request people?
Yeah, yes, sir. Walter is muted.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. So teaching is one of the noblest of professions. It requires an adequate preparation, training, leave alone these preparation and training for time being. Look at the word patience, devotion, and a deep sense of responsibility. So one is patience, the second one is devotion, the third one is a deep sense of responsibility. This is what core element or elements of what we call teaching, which we are going to concentrate as academic skills. As academicians, we prepare lessons, we take classes, we revise, we apply SQ3R method to understand what is what. We go for higher order reading skills. We give importance to LSRW. All these things are okay as a teacher of any subject. Whether we are patient enough to deal with the children, how much responsibility we should have in order to make a mark in the career of your own or our own students. And then when you are part of this particular category, that is molding human mind into something perfection. Actually, Coolidge call it those who mold the human mind have wrought not for time but for eternity. So when you are able to have patience, deep sense of what you call commitment or responsibility, and then devotion towards your job, then yours is the best one. So teaching profession alone guarantees you to have this particular one. And one of the things that I would always believe in and telling you, sometimes it may be controversial, there is no confrontation. I am conscious of what I say. Whenever we talk about these webinars during COVID time, and we all know how teachers are thrown from pillar to post to arrange for things going there, doing this, especially with the private setup, self-financing setup, deemed to be universities, private universities, private self-financing colleges. Their sorrows know no bounds in terms of meeting the requirements of the so-called employer. So it has been there from time immemorial. Of course, it won't be that much heavier when it comes to what you call government and the aided colleges. Of course, you have that. In spite of all these things, we are all branded the great ambassadors of the student community. That I wanted to highlight through this particular one. So you just to make an understanding of this, what this gentleman Colvin says. My session is going to be highlighting only these three things: the patience, the devotion, and the deep sense of responsibility. And again, you have a kind of illustration. Why is teaching a kind of noblest profession? Why do we claim that? It is because we actually undergo a kind of training like any other man does. Take an engineer, take a doctor, take an architect, take a chartered accountant. If you take anybody for that matter, what happens? They all have to go to school, they have to study, and they have to make their existence greater or nobler only after having become a dutiful student. That is why, of all the professions, this is considered the best, I would say. And then, this is a 2020 scenario. What I'm going to say is, you can also get a lot of things from your children. You can also give a kind of exchange. Exchange alone takes place. We are paid for it. We also learn a lot from our children. That is what the second one talks about. So the lessons of life being taught or being learned by us, and innocent students are able to create a kind of impact on us. That we have to always understand. So two things: noblest profession because everybody has to go through this particular stage. Only after becoming a student, depending upon the profession he or she chooses, one can become like that. So noblest because everybody has to, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single leap. A Chinese proverb says like that. You will have to come to terms with this particular scenario as being students. Second one, you are paid salary for what you do. You are intellectually equipping yourself by understanding many good things from our students. That is why we claim we are great academicians or teachers. And I appeal to every teacher, especially engineering teachers, teachers of arts and science, medicine, law, architecture, commerce, economics, what not under the sun. If I have to tear a leaf from my own colleague, Dr. John David Raja, under the sun, any subject that you have to deal with, you teacher or we teachers are expected only to be a kind of facilitator. My own professor, Dr. B. Krishnamurthy, used to say, if you engage your students for 45 minutes, you just talk for 15 minutes. 30 minutes belong to them. Either you make them talk or you make them write or promote a kind of activity for which you have to prepare a lot. You give some sheets of paper, encourage collaborative learning, form different groups, elicit their response, and then give a kind of a consolidation for which you need to be well equipped with what you are dealing with. That particular thing is always there in our mind. So medicine, engineering, arts, science, law, whatever students you have in your class, you have to be a facilitator. By virtue of certain branches of study, say for example, medicine or engineering, if you take, you cannot but fall back on giving importance to the stakeholders. Say for example, students, medical students or engineering students. If you are a medicine student, you are taken to a anatomy lab session, you are taken to a different lab, you are taken to a ward, you are dealing with the different people suffering from different diseases, you are taken to a nephrology ward, you are taken to a neurology ward, you get the first-hand experience. The teacher comes, the medical professor comes and just asks you to watch. So also in engineering, we go to workshop, we go to engineering drawing class, we go to different labs, computer labs, so on and so forth. So the quantum of getting a kind of exposure as far as students of medicine and engineering are concerned, they have got umpteen ambience. So when you play the role of a facilitator, 50-50, you lessen the burden of what you talk, you are able to create a kind of awareness among them what you are capable of giving, so on and so forth. Everything is happening because of your being a facilitator. On the other hand, when you go for arts and science, even science has the same thing: chemistry lab, physics lab, zoology, botanical garden, visiting different places, field visits, so on and so forth. So except I would always claim medicine and economics, if the health department or the health of a nation, the economics or economy of a nation is intact, everything will be perfect. Like Avayar's Atichudi, or Avayar used to say, Varapuiram, Niruiram, Niruiram, Nelluiram kind of a thing. Each one is interrelated to the other one. Finally, the king is happy because the individual farmer works in the field properly. He sells his grains. He becomes rich. When everybody does like that, the whole village is happy. If the village is happy, naturally, the gentleman, the king, the leader is happy. Like that, an individual can impact the society. So all these subjects, as a teacher, you are requested by me to be a facilitator. Number one, quality number one to become a facilitator is you have to be talking less in the class. Sometimes, it varies from subject to subject. The principal who visits your class or who just makes a visit to the entire veranda, if children are making noise and then you are unable to control, like that, he may think. But a classroom where noises are heard reasonably, that is the only class that is considered something is going on quite effectively. So that particular ambience you have to create, that is possible only when you become a facilitator. So you are giving a kind of facility. You just fine tune their already acquired knowledge, for which you go well prepared. You introduce a particular concept in such a way he or she would not have heard of. Then you just go from familiar to unfamiliar, and then you can connect logically. You can tell your whole plan of a particular class session within 3 minutes. You can elicit their response. Thereby, you can make a mark because of your being a facilitator. And in order to be a facilitator, two things are very important for a teacher like us. One is time management. The other one is stress management. Whenever we go to office or our workplace, we carry these four things that you right now see on the screen. We take our body, we take our mind, we take our emotions. Of course, our behavior is entered in our vein. So how to manage these four bulls kind of a thing, almost like four legs of a cow or of an animal or of a table, of a wooden table. A wooden table is fixed properly with these four legs. when one doesn't work properly, either it falls down or it malfunctions. And we must know, as teachers, as academicians, what we are supposed to do is we have to understand our body ethics, our body power, our physical power. Whether you have a headache or frequent infections or taut muscles or muscular twitches or fatigue, you are becoming tired often, or your skin irritation, and then a kind of healthlessness. Whether you are devoid of all these things, then your body is perfect. And your physical behavior is proportionately reciprocal to how your mind also works. When it comes to your mind, whether your mind is clear, or as you see in the screen, whether it is worrying or you have a kind of muddled thinking, confused state of mind, or you decide something wrongly, or for that matter, a kind of a threat that you have nightmarish experiences, and then the one that you do indecision. What is the fault that the King Lear has committed in his life? King Lear, according to Shakespeare, an older man who is unable to discriminate between good and bad, good in the form of Cordelia and bad in the form of Goneril and Regan. So Regan and Goneril were embodiment of evil, which this gentleman failed to understand, because indecision. And he excommunicated Cordelia. Later on, he felt sorry for what he did. But what is the use? So decision making becomes very essential in our life, for which mind has to work in a consistent manner. And then negativity must be avoided. You know the story of a king who was offending his own minister for telling every time good, 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 like. The word good is a kind of nomenclature for everything. So one day the king cut his finger with a small knife, and then the minister claps his hands and then says, yeah, it is also a good, like. So he was arrested. The king was on a hunting expedition. There he was able to see a group of people, cannibals kind of a people, trying to give him a kind of human sacrifice. Towards the last moment, they saw this particular cut, and then he was sent back as he became not eligible. Then he came to the palace, asking him to be released from the jail, asking for his opinion. Again, he said, everything is for good, sir. So in that case, the minister would have been killed had this gentleman been accompanied by the king. So a kind of fast positive vibration, optimism, like Older Man in the Sea by Ernest Hemingway, where Santiago keeps on going and he never becomes tired. Indefatigable is his courage. Even towards his failure, like we go for a SWOT analysis with regard to a company, the strength, the weakness, opportunity, and the threats, we are able to understand the greatness of an individual in terms of mental stability. So optimism is very important. And then hasty decision, anything that you do in a hurry can never be perfect. So either at workplace or at home, we have to strike a balance between body and mind, because almost like a two-wheeler, a vehicle is our body, mind is petrol. So one is giving importance to the other, one is reciprocal to the other, one determines what the other is capable of doing, all those things. When you come down, again, emotions, mind is capable of showing plenty of emotions, anger, anxiety, happiness, so on and so forth. Whether your mind is emotionally balanced, you have to check. For which, what you have to do, you can check what happens to the loss of my confidence, and then why do I make a kind of fuss, almost like finding a storm in a teacup, and then why I become irritable, or why do I irritate others, or why others irritate me, and then do I have a feeling of depression, whether someone is mounting pressure on me, and then apathy, lack of enthusiasm. Should I remain intact in my classroom? By looking at your appearance, you make your students energized, that whether you are able to do it, for which your mental stability is intact. All these things need to be checked. Also, sense of alienation. No, you are part and parcel of this particular society. You are like a warp and woof. That can never be separated, kind of attitude you should have. And then apprehension. You need not critically apprehend everything. How you view society, the society views you, that you have to take a final call with regard to emotions. And then when you come to a behavioral part, body and then mind, then emotion, then the result of your how you behave, how you act. When you go for this accident prone, whether your behavior is like anytime it may boil kind of a thing, or you don't have proper appetite, you feel everything is intact in the world life, and then you don't have desire, physical fitness is not there, and then you take liquor, you drink, and then you have the feeling of insomnia, and then you feel restless, you are fretting and fuming with everyone. When a boy makes noise, you are irritated, you send that particular fellow away from the class, you lose your temper. And last one, smoking. So any imbalance in our mind leads to a kind of finding an outlet that could be like drinking and then smoking, which we are not a party to it any time. And then when you are able to manage your stress with this particular pattern, you will be able to do better things in the world. So this is as one of the academic skills. Every teacher, every Tom, Dick and Harry, every rank and file has to kindly take it for granted how I manage my stress in an effective way. And then this is very important. Another 50-50, like teacher's life can be described using two things. One is time management, the other one is stress management. When these two things are managed properly, then everything is at your finger grips. Everything is with you. You can never lose anything in your life which you find essential. Look at resource. Normally, you say alternative uses of resources, alternative energy, coal, water, every current, everything, recycling and using. And when you go for time management, this is one of the most precious, important resources that we have, for which we have to give importance. You take anybody for that matter. Our Tamil Nadu Chief Minister has 24 hours. You have 24 hours time. I have 24 hours. A student has 24 hours. They have been at home for the past 2 months. How do they manage time? How do they use time? So everyone is given 24 hours. How do they make use of it? There lies the success. And then this is again one of my moot points that I wanted to emphasize. Four types of IQ that we call intelligence quotient. Normally we talk about IQ is something someone who is able to memorize things and then reproduce at the time of requirement, like attending a competitive examination, using process of elimination, using reduction principle. You apply your mind. Sometimes you fall back on your memory. Whenever you fall back on your memory, you are supposed to have what you call intelligence. Quotient is something very good. When you go to the next one, it is again related to your mind, that is emotional. And then the third and fourth one, very important. I appeal to every teacher who is connected with me now. These third and fourth skills abysmally abundantly missing in the minds of the children. Social quotient, whether they are able to befriend others, whether they have no ego, whether they are able to understand everything in a sportive manner, how they behave in a society. When they travel in a bus, a group of students, whether they have the tendency to help others by giving importance to elders, thereby making them sit under their traveling by way of standing, they're helping, leading people from the front, whether they are able to understand or nurture or obtain social quotient skills that we teachers should ensure that they are properly given to them. And then children commit suicide often. Suicide due to their scoring marks, lack of marks. They are unable to withstand pressure, poverty, excessive money sometimes, no privacy, longing for appreciation. All these things lead to a kind of mental trauma. That particular thing is what we call adversity. We teachers are supposed to teach our children adversity quotient, how to understand life, what are the impediments one has to lead a life, how to follow or how to face the most difficult situation in your life. All these things need to be discussed in the class at least for 5 minutes whenever you find time. A mathematics teacher is not expected of talking about adversity. If he does not do it, whatever he writes on the board, people will not follow because it becomes adverse on their part. So to make your teaching very effective, these four skills, especially third and fourth, especially second, third, and fourth, because without number one, they cannot come to your college to study. Naturally, our what you call this gentleman, uh, Macaulay's educational principle we follow, which is based on the scoring of marks. Primary school, secondary school, middle school education, like collegiate education. Like so, one is constant. You make a vow. You make it a point when one is available. A boy, a raw student with number one comes to your classroom. It is your responsibility, our responsibility that the second, the third, and fourth skills needed to be taught by you by using plenty of examples. You can talk about people who struggled a lot in their life and they went on to become successful human being. Those kind of pep talks can be given in order to make your students to feel interested or not feel disillusioned. That particular thing you can make it happen. So very important to second, third, and fourth aspects. And then I come to our own business of how we all do in our classroom, or what are the important things that we are able to exercise in our classroom setup. Of course, we have talked about time management, going to class in time. When a boy comes late, when you send him out, the same thing will happen to us, like Newton's third law. Our principal or our registrar will scold us when you go late. So our going late leads to confusion. So you have to be in time so that you can dictate terms. At least in order to dictate terms, time management is very important. Look at, we teach for 19 working days a semester, and then we take some 60 hours per subject, say for example social history of England, or for that matter algebra, or reliability theory, or semiconductor physics and optoelectronics, or for that matter circuit theory or linear integrated circuits. Any subject that you deal with, you go for managing time. 45 hours, 60 hours, you take some of the classes, you take them to the lab, you give practical knowledge to them. All these things need to be planned in such a way. Time management is very essential. Look at, you will wonder, 90 working days or 6 months, you have a 3-hour examination. Again, you evaluate them within 30 minutes or 20 minutes. The whole thing comes to an end when you evaluate a paper based on what you have taught, or based on what you have taught or how others evaluate. So benchmark should be set in order to manage time, for which you need a kind of meticulous plan required. And then when you go for the second one, of course, we know all these things, proficiency in reading, and then our ability to speak in English and write in English with clarity, precision, and confidence, simplicity, and then your ability to think everything in a critical manner. When I say critical manner, not cynical, but you will be able to understand everything in a minute way so that you will be able to say something to the children after some time. And then research has become the part and parcel of everyone's life. So also from the undergraduate level. So researching abilities means unearthing something which are unearthing something which is already there, but you are giving a new focus, a unique approach you give. That you have to make it in the classroom. As I always believe in this particular aspect of mathematics. Mathematics subject plays a vital role in engineering. Without mathematics, engineering is zero. Without mathematics, science is zero. So you can make children understand how to integrate mathematics with mechanical engineering, mathematics with the computer science like algorithm, program writing, and LIC, linear integrated circuits, with the circuit theory and other things with mathematics, civil engineering, drawing, engineering graphics, so on and so forth. So teachers of engineering can make a mark through these research abilities, like aerospace engineering, engineering mechanics, one of the most difficult subjects. Thermodynamics, another important thing, another important subject, one of the toughest subjects that you talk about. All these things that can be approached in a particular way where you are able to do some research. And you just, Dr. Vijay Thurai sir was telling me yesterday night when we were talking, you just make your children stand on their own legs. Not you are going to class and teaching for 40 minutes, doing the same thing for 3 years. When he goes after completing his degree, he should remain independent. That particular aspect, whether you are able to make. Of course, it is a collective effort. An individual is not expected to do that in no time. When every individual does his work properly, then it will become a collective responsibility and a collective consciousness, which results in 100% success. And then analytical thinking, all part of the scheme of things I did not tell you much about. And then this is very important, as we all spoke about this one, stress management, problem solving, and decision making. They are like twins. Whenever you have problems, you should be able to decide in such a way. You will be able to understand the whole thing very clearly. So when we move to the next one, whenever we talk about academic skills, naturally, your ability to move with your children in the classroom becomes very essential. You cannot simply set aside as soon as the classroom, when you come out of the classroom, the relationship is cut off. Like that, you cannot take. So you are able to communicate well in order to put that interpersonal skills with your children, even in the department, in the staff room. When you don't exercise this interpersonal skill, you know how difficult it is for everyone. You cannot enter into the department staff room with a happy mind. Oh, how this man is going to find fault with me? What is the work that is given to me? All these things came to your mind or would come to your mind when you don't have a proper relationship with people. And then your ability to listen to, observing critically, the one that we saw earlier, and then very, very important, negotiation skills. Negotiation skills is part of an academic skill because you have either a win-win situation or win-lose situation. Uh, Teacher loses, students win. Sometimes it happens. You say something, you talk about mathematics for 40 minutes continuously by working different things on the board. They are irritated. At the end of the day, when you are able to apply that to a different field, their understanding can be extended to next level. Sometimes they may get a feeling of irritation on your part, but the impact you have created will be greater than what you expect. So You can always go for students win, you lose, or win-win 50-50, or lose-win should be your strategy to deal with the children. And then this is very important one. Again, I go back to the term facilitator. When you are, ma'am, I request the participant to mute the audio, please. Can you do that, please? Hello, friend. Can you do it, please? I could not talk against this noise. That's why this request, please.
Walter?
Yes, ma'am. Preeta will do it.
Okay.
Yes. So collaborative learning is another important aspect wherein a class of 40 students can be grouped into 4 larger groups. Each group consisting 10 members can be given a task by you. Say, for example, with mathematics, for the same sum with a different approach, you can say. Differentiation or integration, like you integrate, differentiate kind of a thing. If it is a literature-based class, you can give a poem, how it can be interpreted by 4 groups based on theme, structure, so on and so forth. If it is a medical field, how a particular organ functions, you can again talk. Say, for example, our kidneys. When we talk about kidneys, it is actually a thing that does the filtering. So how does the filtering take place? What is, others can talk about what the greatness of nephrons. Others, yet another people can talk about the function of kidneys with regard to the, what do you call, hemoglobin, or the functioning of your lungs. Your apt functioning of your lungs determine the proper functioning of your kidneys. So they can approach like that. All these things you need to know before you separate the entire class into different groups that you can exercise in the classroom as what do you call, academicians in the classroom. And then I have 20 minutes to go. I'll just finish. Thank you. And then when you go for assertive skills, very important. Point blank, you have to talk. No mincing matters. Whatever you know, this is my approach. This is the honest way, so that you can understand everything. Like that, you have to say, but without offense. You can be assertive, but you can never be, what do you call, offensive. You cannot offend people. In order to remain assertive, you are not supposed to, what do you call, irritate or offend people. So assertiveness, you are being straightforward, but you are not offending. And then, of course, we know this soft skills, your use of mental strength, your use of emotions. And when we go for this particular one, I just, for want of time, I just travel with regard to the, what do you call, examples that I have shown in red color. Again, these are what we call academic skills. Responding to and asking questions by a teacher. Academic, it is what we call academic discourse. That particular skill can be developed only when you are able to do this on many occasions. And then when you go for looking for inferred meaning in text, supposing you are giving a reading task, how that particular reading is done by the student. So text strategies, you can use different strategies, rhetorical devices, identifying rhetorical devices like narration or description or definition or analogy or argumentation or causal analysis or cause and effect. Anything that you can understand with regard to a particular text. It is what we call academic text strategies. And then you have academic strategies, writing notes. Whatever I speak now, you are able to observe, and I am waiting. I keep my fingers crossed. The questions you are going to post, which I am going to answer. So for which, what you have to do? You have to make a note of what you are listening to, so that it takes place. I call it 3 ways, these two. When you go to these 2 C's are very important, composition and comprehension. Now when you make an argument, it should be coherent. Man is mortal, Aristotle is a man, so Aristotle is mortal. When you argue like that, it can be done only using coherence. Cohesion and coherence are very important for any understanding of things. So you inculcate, you make it happen among the students developing a kind of coherent argument based on a given theme or given idea. And then you go for the second one, identifying specific ideas in academic texts and lectures. Again, you go for reading between the lines, reading beyond the lines, reading above the lines. So you ensure your students' ability to read from a bird's eye view, from an eagle view, from an helicopter view, from a different perspective. All those things you can check with regard to comprehension. And then when you go for this one, very important, very illustrative graphics. This one, I just I will share this so that you can understand where you are actually. Look at 5 things given in this particular passion. Horizontally, vertically, you have things. Let me read first the one that given in this particular passion. Develop academic cultural competency, then strategic self-management, then activities with integrity, then with information, engage critically with information, and then you have to communicate with a scholar, communicate as a scholar. So these the 5 components are naturally reciprocal to the one that we talk about: transition, time management, academic integrity, academic input, academic output. Today, in today's scenario, among more among engineering colleges or arts and science colleges, you have this OBE kind of an education, outcome-based education. The teachers, the duty is not to come and teach, but to ensure the skills the students have learned after they complete their degree. So academic output, what you are able to give, what kind of importance. Hello, hello, friend, please. I request you to mute your audio. Just 10 minutes, kindly bear with me, please. This is one of the difficulties we face in Google Meet. I request you, please. Come on. Okay, fine. So, starting from transition time to academic output, a boy comes from school, you take him to the class, he studies in a classroom, the kind of transition period he is in. You tell him the importance of managing time. You deal with integrity like learning, learn, unlearn, relearn. These concepts you teach, and then you give some inputs like evaluating sources, anything that you read with the strategy, so on and so forth. And then you have managing information. You synthesize the one that you have said, and then you have output. He becomes an individual, a dependable individual who can understand a suitable job, or he can understand your subject suitably, and then he becomes the authority. So this is how you have to see. It is the responsibility of every academician, every teacher, every professor. Every teacher works in school or in college. And then when you move further, this is what you call a kind of framework. You can read it for yourself for curriculum. Higher education aims at these things to happen, UGC, NAC, NBA, AICTE, NIRF. These institutions wanted to have quality, wanted to ensure quality among the institutions. The stakeholders should be given maximum importance, that you always have a notion. So what they do, pedagogic and scholarly literature, that becomes part of your academic framework. And then when you go for another thing, you can get inputs from practitioners, employers. Again, you go for dealing with the students, and then you go for what do you call alumni engagement, so on and so forth. And then when you go for the third one, you deal with the institutional learning and the teaching policy, and then the resources available as far as the teachers are concerned. And then you go for the program framework, you talk about the time constraints, so on and so forth. Finally, you come to governmental higher education guidelines and directives. When you go for all these things put together, your curriculum becomes very effective. Whether your curriculum needs these parameters, whether it gives ample scope for your understanding, all these things need to be ensured by you. What I likely to do is, I call it a day. Very much. Now, ma'am, by way
Yes,
of
sir.
giving, you can invite the participants to ask questions from whatever they feel.
Yes, sir. Yes. I request the participants if you have any queries that you can discuss with the speaker.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, madam, you are audible. You can
Is my voice audible, sir?
Yes, yes, you are
Yes,
audible.
yes, yes, you are
Yeah.
Yes,
audible,
ma'am.
Savita.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
As
ma'am.
you
Good
said,
afternoon. Please tell me.
yeah. Good afternoon, sir. As you said, the lecture. But one thing I would like to add from my side is the presentation was given in a clear-cut manner. It was a well-structured presentation, although, and the slides actually speaking the nobility of profession, which I was really carried away. Because as a teacher, personally speaking, I think the nobility, if we have it in our mind,
Yes.
the other things comes unasked.
Yes, you are right.
And one more slide where you have given it as be a facilitator. In that, I
Yes,
would like to add one sentence, sir.
yes, ma'am. Please.
So, in order to become a better facilitator, what I think is you have to become a better student.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how we learn to become a better facilitator for future days. And overall, the slide was well equipped, and I was really happy with your presentation as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
uh,
Please.
I
Yes,
am
ma'am.
Prema from Meenakshi College, Madurai.
Yes, ma'am. Namaste, ma'am.
Namaste, sir. Your overall presentation is so crystal clear. You are preparing our minds to go back to our profession, sir. Thank
you,
you.
ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Okay, thank you, Varadharajan. The session was so wonderful.
Thank you, Professor.
Yes, of course, it is good to be simply.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Yes.
I'm the alumni of this theology college. My name is Varadharajan Kumar. I'm working under the Venkateswara College of Engineering. The presentations are really good.
Professor, kindly reduce your volume, please. I could not listen to you clearly. Reduce the volume,
Uh,
Agarwal.
is it okay now? Is it okay now?
Otherwise, I have reduced mine. Wait. I will reduce mine so that, yes,
Hello.
Professor Agarwal. Yes, Professor Agarwal, please go ahead. Yes, Mr. Agarwal, please.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Agarwal,
ma'am.
sir. I think that he has muted his mic.
Yes, yes.
Hello.
Yes, Professor. Good here.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much for the wonderful things which you have done on framing the syllabus. You got
You
a
are,
clear-cut idea on it. And
your
I'm the
mic.
alumni of the Theological College. Thank you very much for the wonderful discussion which you have given.
Your voice is not clear. Thank you, Agarwal. Thank you very much.
No, that's Varadharajan Kumar. His mic was not
Bharat,
working properly.
Yes.
Bharati Kumar. Yes, yes.
Varadharajan
Thank you,
Kumar,
sir.
mic was. Anyway, my question, Varadharajan.
Yes, Professor, please.
Yes, it was a wonderful presentation and is said to be replicated in a teacher training institute. In fact,
Thank you, sir.
it's a wonderful lecture for an orientation course for all budding teachers.
Thank you, Professor,
And
please.
my question is, you talked about critical thinking as academic skill and also critical observation for interpersonal skills.
Yes,
Can
Professor.
you please throw some light on the difference between critical thinking and critical observation, Professor?
Yeah, almost synonymous, Professor, when it comes to observation and thinking. Actually, unless we thinking and observation, they go together, right? So my what I wanted to tell you through that particular, when we are able to apply our mind critically, we are able to understand something different from what it has been.
Right.
So for which what we have to do is, you can think That thinking can be developed only when you observe things, and mere theoretical understanding of what it is will not be that much appealing. Anyway, I will give you an example. When we deal with a poem, say for example, Wordsworth's Solitary Reaper, and we apply a particular structure to that. You talk about all Scottish things, Scottish stuff which Wordsworth has already talked about in the poem. Apart from that, when you come across the same thing in your locality, in your setup, or in your reading something else, when you are able to connect it or relate it, then it becomes critical observation, which is preceded by critical thinking process.
Yes, they are two sides of the same coin. You are right.
Yes, Professor.
Thank you,
sir.
Any other questions from the participants?
Varadharajan, sir.
Yes, Professor Sendil, please. Thank you for listening. Good afternoon, sir.
I have just listened to, and thank you for your lucid presentation, exuberant presentation. You were so lively, and we were all attracted towards your presentation. Thank you so much, and thank you, the organizers.
Thank you, Sendil sir.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
So I'm Sainmuri, Professor, Government College of Sir. It was a very wonderful session, mind-blowing, sir. And I was really happy listening to your lecture, which was enlightening all the teachers there. Teaching phase. So I would like to put you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When we listen to such highly motivated, but taking this to classroom, we have certain constraints that how to complete the portion when we are much involved in all the other things you highlight here.
Yes, ma'am. I got your question. You are worried much about completing syllabus. Again, that becomes part of time management. That's fine.
Yes.
What happens, apart from taking all these skills into account, we always have a tendency to do our job without any pressure, right?
Yes, sir.
You have to take all these constraints into account. Still, you will be able to do something good for the children. And our discussion for these 40 to 50 minutes will not do anything greater, ma'am. It can happen sporadically, in bits and pieces here and there. When you are able to, I always believe in telling you this, ma'am. When you are able to create a kind of impact with 2 students of your 2 out of 45 or 50, that will do, ma'am.
Sure, sir. Sure.
You need not what do you call, make everyone happy, or you cannot convince everyone in this world, right?
Yes, sir. Fine.
So,
thank you.
That could be one of the important things I have been following, ma'am.
Sir, good morning. This is Geeta Rani Sendil. Sir, from your good afternoon, sir. From your lecture of this 45 minutes, I could understand that I can follow this one very surely, because all the things, whatever you told, it is very difficult to follow within certain time. But I hope I can take this as my path today, that is assertiveness without offending the others. I hope it is very clear so that we can follow this one. Thank you, sir.
Sometimes, Geeta ma'am, what happens when you are assertive?
Yes.
You cannot exercise the same thing with your principal. That's the problem.
That is true. That is true. That's why I'm saying without offending.
Yeah. Even if you don't offend anyone intentionally,
yes,
we are not assertive. That is the reality.
That's true.
We put a thinker actually, and then we behave.
Yes, sir. According to the situation.
So, at least you can be assertive with your class students without mincing matters, calling a spade a spade. And even when you do your work properly, ma'am,
yes, sir.
Even if you are a little bit arrogant or talkative or doing something extra, they won't find it serious. I am one of the examples of the time. So A man from
Yes,
within.
sir.
Don't worry.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So this is Payam Badre, sir.
Yes, professor. Please go ahead.
So I'm working in Mahatma Gandhi Antarashtra Vindi Viswalaya, Maharashtra.
Yes, professor.
So your lecture was awesome, but I want to some suggestions because of this pandemic situations,
Yes,
COVID-19.
professor.
So nowadays mostly classes are going on online lectures. So
Yes,
what
professor.
suggestion you want to give for the technical skills for improve to understand this mostly for the online basis classes? So how we
Yes,
can understand
yeah.
understand?
I got your question, G. Actually, what I wanted to suggest, only for the past 3 months we are learning this. Ever since from 25th March onwards, only we have been finding a solution to this particular issue. So
Yes, yes, yes.
every student has a smartphone. Every house has a smartphone. Even 4 members of a family, all the four have phones at home. So what I would like to tell you is uh, the technical expertise of a particular individual goes only slowly. It has to come, but we cannot get results all of a sudden. So you can employ different mobile applications. You can make students understand the concept of Google. How does Google do things? Google Forms, and then this meeting mode, the video that you capture. All these things can be shared among students. And again, virtual teaching cannot be the sacrosanct every time. Though it has become the order of the day, seeing students face to face will have its own greatness, in my opinion, Professor.
Yes, Varadharajan, it's actually
Thank you very much.
unimaginable to talk to 500 people in pin drop
Yes,
silence.
yes, Professor. Yes,
So it's a great advantage.
yeah.
And,
That too,
and
audio problem, video problem, all these things are there, right?
yeah, that can be rectified very soon in future. But another important thing or a funny thing I can see is within 10 minutes, people come up with the popping comments. It's very informative, sir, session, sir, very useful, sir. That
Oh,
was what
without listening to.
yes.
No,
Without listening to. In 10
Professor.
minutes, they come up with the comments like,
No,
wonderful session, sir, very
there is
useful, sir.
there is no
Informative,
hidden
sir.
agenda, Professor. I am not party to it. Believe me, I haven't
Yes,
said
of
anyone
course.
like that.
You cannot be. You could not have seen that comments at all. I saw
I
that.
could not see. I am handicapped. Yeah.
Yes.
No,
Anyway,
sir. Like that. Unless we watch, we'll never comment like that. Okay.
Ma'am?
okay.
Yeah.
Walter?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, shall we close the session with a vote of thanks, or are there
Yes,
any
ma'am. We
more
can
questions?
proceed to the vote of thanks.
Yeah, ma'am has joined us.
Yeah. Any more questions from the participants? Okay, then we'll move towards expressing our heartfelt thanks to the resource person.
Yes.
I think most importantly, from the Department of English and Foreign Languages, we welcome your daughter to the
Yes.
session.
My son also wants to see you, ma'am. Very trembling. He is trembling like anything. He is trembling like anything. He never allows me. Look at it. He takes my mic out. Yeah. He wants to also listen. Yes, ma'am. Please. You please
Yes,
carry on.
it's excellent to see both of them joining you. They have come at the right moment when the session is over and they are of no
Yeah.
more disturbance to you. Anyway,
They
sir, on
kept
behalf
coming, ma'am.
of
They
the
kept coming.
department,
They kept coming. I was able to avoid
I
them.
want to
Yeah.
thank. Yes, sir. I want to thank you for the very practical and useful tips you've given, sir. You were very humble in the beginning by saying that I'm not giving you anything new, but in fact, you've given
Yes, ma'am. Please.
academic skills that we can integrate into our learning.
Yes.
So, And so I think you are preparing all of us, especially the young and the less experienced teachers. You're preparing them for the coming academic year by giving them a lot of very, very useful ideas about how they can go about in their classes. So it was an
Yes.
extremely useful and informative one. Professor Vijay Durai, I am saying this only after listening to the 50-minute lecture of
Excuse me, ma'am.
Professor Varadharajan. So
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
thank you, Professor Vijay Durai, for
Excuse me,
yesterday's
ma'am.
lecture, and
Thank you.
Professor Varadharajan for today's lecture.
Yes,
Yes,
Yes.
is
excuse me, ma'am.
someone
Yes,
trying to say something?
yes, yes,
Yes,
yes. Also
Prema?
inspiring to the
Prema, ma'am?
experienced teachers. Yes, ma'am. It's also inspiring for
That's what I
experienced
said.
teachers
Yes,
like us.
yes, yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
I said, I said he's preparing all of us, but the focus is more on the young and the less experienced teachers. So I think we should express our heartfelt thanks on behalf of the department and on behalf of the institution also. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And I thank all the participants for
Yes,
being
ma'am.
very
Thank you. Thank you.
cooperative and helping us make this a very fruitful session. Thank you so much. Walter,
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you so
I
much.
should
Walter
also
will close
thank
the
everyone.
session.
Walter.
Walter,
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you
Walterji.
so much,
Walter,
Dr. Varadharajan,
Walterji,
sir.
you have done very well, G, in terms of making everything technically intact. I'm also
Thank
grateful to
you.
you. Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Savita ma'am.
Thank
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 you,
you
you
very much.
Varadhar.
Thank you.
for such a
Yeah,
wonderful,
thank you,
Vijay sir, thank
Varadharajan,
you,
and
sir.
thank you all SRM
enlightening
mates.
presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
I would just like to inform all the participants that we will be sharing the audio, the entire video, recorded video link on our YouTube channel. Once all the 3-day lectures are over, that is by tomorrow evening, we will share all the links and on request of the resource persons, we will share the PPTs. Thank you all. Ma'am, we can leave the session now.
Okay, okay, Walter.
Okay. Yes, I kindly request the participants to leave the call. Not all the participants will get the feedback form, sir. Professors, those who are asking for whether they should give feedback or not everyone will get the feedback form. If you do get the feedback form, you can please fill it and submit, and then the certificate will immediately come to your email. Those who don't get the feedback form, they will get the certificates in their registered emails by this evening itself. Those who do not get the feedback form, please don't worry, you will get your certificates directly in your emails. You need not fill any feedback. Only those who get the feedback form, kindly fill the feedback and submit. Mukesh, sir, we will see, sir. It is not mandatory for all to fill the feedback form. Only those who get the feedback form, they need to fill, sir. Otherwise, the others will get the certificates directly in their registered emails. Yes, I request the participants to kindly leave the meeting, because otherwise the recording and the videos will not get generated.